So I'm going to share my Scratch remix project. So I chose to remix a Pop-It Clicker project, and I chose that one because my student and one of my sisters are obsessed with those Pop-It things. So I felt like, along with all the Scratch and the coding stuff, that kind of appealed to me as well. Um, when looking through the projects to find one that I wanted to do a remix of, I found myself kind of getting um, drawn into a bunch of different projects and playing the games and trying it out. And I think now that I've had time to play around with Scratch, now in my head I'm thinking, okay, what was the code that made this thing happen or made that thing happen? So when I opened this project here, I basically simplified it. So there was a section way down here that said shop, and it seems like it had a bunch of different items. But before I remixed it, just playing it didn't do anything. So I personally didn't need a shop and noticed that it wasn't working. So I did take that out. I had also noticed there were just some random pieces of code hanging around in these different areas. So I did take the extra code out. There may be some spots where there might be some unnecessary code, but I tried to look through everything to see what was essential and what was kind of leftover code or code that wasn't working. So the biggest thing, or not the biggest, but one of the things I decided to do was to add a timer. I did a countdown timer. Originally, this project had no timer. You could just click until you got tired of clicking, but I set up the timer to go along with the high score so that the high score would kind of replace itself every time that high score was matched. And I changed some of the music. I did like how they have the falling pieces. So when you pop one, it falls in the background. So it comes up, the score as the timer comes down. It did take me a little while to get the high score how I wanted it. I know I had done that on one of the other projects we did for this week's assignments, but I struggled to get the high score to work, but I did eventually figure it out. So I think this Scratch was such a better step for me going into the world of computer science, coding, rather than Python, because Python I just had such a hard time wrapping my head around. So to me, I think this is a great way to get students starting into coding and to take a section of code that we have and okay, then how do we code it into a different program like Python or one of the other ones that are out there. So, and then this whole idea around this project reminded me of what our guest speaker said at our Wednesdays class, which was just the point of coding is to take what somebody already has and make it your own and make it better. So doing any of the debugging or getting rid of some code that doesn't work or that isn't needed. So I think it kind of makes me feel better that I'm not stealing something of someone's. I am taking it and making it my own and perhaps making it better. So I enjoyed the Scratch experience. It's a little time consuming, but once you start getting the hang of it, I could see how you could build some really awesome projects.